Alicia, you've written a lot about how the FBI and sort of other government agencies have responded to the Black Lives Matter movement, including this really sort of disturbing Black identity extremism assessment. What's your takeaway from how we watched the Capitol Police respond to the insurrection versus what you've seen in your reporting on how they've treated Black Lives Matter protesters?
Right. So, I mean, first of all, one of the things, we say when we talk about what happened on January 6th is, how shocking it was. And I think it really should not be all that shocking at all. I mean, first of all, the event itself should not be shocking because it was planned in plain sight. But also, the different response from police and then later from prosecutors should also not surprise us, because we see that all the time in our criminal justice system. So I think it's absolutely important to talk about that. I wrote something recently comparing not just the police response, but the immediate charges that were filed against the individuals who attacked the Capitol in comparison to people who were arrested and charged, violently arrested and charged immediately with really severe crimes during the George Floyd uprising last summer, during the J20 protests on Trump's inauguration, and over the last several years. I mean, we've seen prosecutors kind of really go out of their way to charge people with extremely harsh federal charges for doing things that are, far less than what we saw on January 6th. And I think there's a danger in comparing January 6th to the J20 protests or the George Floyd uprising, because they are not remotely comparable as acts. Even where crimes were committed, they are just not, on the same level. But of course, like the most immediate response so many of us had was, just looking at the different way police and then prosecutors were treating them. But I think one important point to make, for instance, about the J20 is that, the people that were arrested on Trump's inauguration, the groups that had organized this protest, had been infiltrated and targeted and surveilled for months before it. We know that there has been an enormous amount of time and resources and man hours that were manpower and hours that were put into the surveillance of Black activists since Ferguson, obviously well before that, but certainly since Ferguson, and through the protests of the last few years. And so, the FBI even went out of their way to really kind of come up with this absolutely non-existent ideology, right? This Black identity extremism that they literally invented, and spent all this time kind of trying to target people based on that, when we knew and they knew that all this violence by far-right white supremacist groups was there. They had all the evidence they needed, and they didn't really put those kinds of resources there. So